if you watch the last CB750 project videos and you got to the last one, you'll see that I actually was thinking I might turn it into a cafe race, and I was looking at some ideas. Well, things have moved on quite a bit since then. Like a lot of people, I spend a lot of time scouring the internet on the motorbike ads so that I can see if there's any decent bikes coming up. Well, I happened to see this one, and one of the attractions about it was it had a lot of the parts that I was considering using to make a cafe racer. So I thought, that looks like it could be a really good donor bike for my project. In reality, I fully expected that the bidding on it would shoot off into the stratosphere. It wouldn't be anything that I'd be buying, but hey, I kept my eye on it. And then, as it happens, when the bidding came to the end, put in a bid. Didn't expect to win, but I did. The story, I think, is that the guy had spent a number of years working on this, putting it together, and had just got to the point where he was getting the engine started and moving the project on to perhaps being a completed bike. And I think he either moved house or something like that came up, and it ended up being stored at a relative's house in the garage. Well, as you know what happens, life gets in the way. He bought 2 or 3 other bikes along the way, I think, and he never quite got back to this. So it sat there for about 5 or 6 years. Now, I think this was going to be a future barn find. However, I suspect that the relative was either moving or something and asked him to clear the things out, so it was put up for sale. Now, I'm very lucky in that I'm the benefactor of that, in that I got it at a really good price. One of the things that was against this was, for me in the UK, this bike was over 4.5 hours drive away, which always puts us off. I think if you're watching this in America, you'll find that laughable, but hey, anything over 1.5 hours in the UK and we get really twitchy. In the advert, it did say that it needed a full rebuild, so I fully expected that the engine and a number of parts on it would be not yet usable. However, now I've come to look it over, a lot of the parts are really good. The guy that was building it really made good decisions about buying great components and spent a lot of time fitting them. Now, it's not the bike to my taste at the moment, but a lot of the parts that are on it will be usable. And having looked it over and the work that is done, I think this will make a much better cafe racer than using parts from it on the other bike. So this is my next project, the cafe racer build. The wheels have all been rebuilt, stainless spokes, and the rims had been powder coated, as had the hubs. It's got a drill disc at the back and the front, and the tyres were brand new Avon Road Riders, although now they're about 5 or 6 years old, but they still feel absolutely pristine. It's got some aftermarket gauges. They've not been wired up, but they are actually have got the cables going to the right places for them to work. These are barleycorn made handlebars, and I think I'll probably have them a bit more swept back than they are at the moment. It's got the buttons for use with the M unit, and it's got a Nissin master cylinder with what looks like a nice new reservoir with it. So altogether, this is going to make a really nice front end. Now, it's got a Dyna electronic ignition kit fitted to it, and an oil pressure gauge, which might not be holding the oil in at the moment. The carbs look like they were completely cleaned before it was put on, and it's got new manifold boots. The seat, although it looks a bit scrappy, is, I believe the brand is Von Zetti, and it's actually a very, very well made fiberglass seat. It's not really to my taste, but not decided on it yet. But it hides all of the electronics that have been put in, and a lot of people will spot straight away. It's got an M unit, which is a really good way of wiring the bike. I can't wait to get that so I know it works properly. solenoid, regulator and rectifier. It seems to have been put together well on this plate, and as you can see the frame has been adjusted with a loop at the back, so the welding's been done for that. And I noticed that it's got a lithium battery, but it's not been charged for about 5 years, so my expectations are not high that that will work. It's got the correct coils for use with a dyno electronic ignition, which is a good thing, and you can see the wiring still needs rerouting and perhaps covering over properly, but that's all going to come off to be put back on during the project. It's had the frame modified so that you can fit rear sets, and these are some Italian brand. Bit disappointing how much corrosion there is on them. It's got a pair of brand new Hagen shocks on it and a brand new DID chain with sprockets at either end. Now you can see there is some surface rust on the chain, but I do think that'll clean up okay. The more I've looked at this bike, the more nice little touches I've found, like stainless fasteners, the things that have been used to hold the wiring even though the wiring hasn't been finished. Some of the lights that are on it are quite good. They must have cost, you know, quite a bit to actually buy. I think the man that was building this must be quite upset that he never quite finished his project, and it's to my benefit that, because I've got what is a really good basis of a bike. Now the next thing for me is to see if I can get the engine running, because if you haven't got a running engine you haven't got anything really. So I think the next video that you might see will be me endeavouring to give it a first start. Once I know what I've got with the engine, I'll know whether I need to rebuild it or do any work on it. Then I can decide where I go from there. But my intentions are probably to strip virtually everything down, refinish the things that need refinishing and put it back together. It's quite obvious that a lot of the aluminium parts had been very highly polished before it was put away, but unfortunately corrosion's taken hold with them, so they're going to need looking at again. In the advert for this it did say it needed a full rebuild, so it could be that the previous owner did find there was some problem with the engine, which was why he couldn't get it running. On the kickstart it turns over. I know I can't actually select the gears properly, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. I've had bikes with much worse looking engines than this that I eventually got running. I'm sure some of you will have thought about the last bike, the Project CB750, and the fact that it looks such a reasonable K-series standard bike. Well, I'm not getting rid of that just yet. I'm intending to ride it a bit in the summer and perhaps fix a few of its foibles that have come up along the way. So that's one thing that's going to happen. And I got this and I think I got a really good buy. Why don't you have a guess at what I actually paid for it? And in the next video, or perhaps the one after, I'll have a look through and I'll let you know who was closest. If you've enjoyed this, why not subscribe now so you can follow this project, and why not go and look at some of the videos from our previous ones, because I've done a couple of CBs along the way. But no matter what, thank you very much for watching.